Welcome to Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss and discover the challenges and triumphs of those living with NLD, nonverbal learning disability, and other learning challenges such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and any other invisible learning differences that one may live with. And I like to interview individuals as well who live with various learning challenges. So if you know anybody, please point me their way, or if you are that individual, I would love to interview you on various topics. So please let me know. And I welcome you to this podcast. All right, good morning. Happy Friday, or maybe it's Saturday by the time you're listening to this, or maybe Friday evening or Saturday evening. So, how many doctors, teachers, academic counselors, and tutors are neurodiverse or know someone who is neurodiverse? That will be the topic for today. But before I go into that, I thought I would address that this election is going to be very important, and I am not telling you how to vote. I'm just encouraging you to vote. If you are 18 years old or older, I encourage you to vote and to do a lot of research so that you are informed on what you're voting on and that you are able to do well with the voting process and be informed on it. And I am also an ambassador for the NVLD project, and then NVLD project is trying to get the NVLD back on the DSM, which is a manual for mental and learning disabilities, and it helps people get accommodations in school and in life by defining what the disability is and how it affects you in life, and by showing examples and evidence of it, and by giving a clear definition of it. So that's what the DSM is, and they're trying to get NVLD back in there. And in order to do that, they renamed NVLD to developmental visual spatial disorder. I always forget the D. My hope is that when they do that, they will list all the symptoms, because nonverbal wasn't a very good name for it either, but neither is developmental visual spatial disorder, because it's not just developmental and visual spatial. It's also the social, which nonverbal doesn't have either. So it's like, my name that I've kind of developed for it, which I'm not sure if it's very good either, is invisible learning spectrum disorder. But I don't know if that's very good either. So anyways, and this podcast is also supported by Patreon and Spotify and BetterHelp. So BetterHelp is a therapy company that does therapy online and remotely. I have not used BetterHelp, but I know they're very good, and I have been in therapy for more than 8 years. I think 8.5. I'm not doing it currently, but I was doing it last year, and it was very helpful for me when I was doing it online and remotely. It was very helpful for me. It was able to change a lot of things in my life and make my life better. So if you want a discount for BetterHelp, I'll include the link for that. And Patreon is a way for me to give you the episodes without any ads, like I'm doing right now. And I give you access to transcripts as well, and to the episodes without any ads. So if you want that, it's either $5 for the episode without any ads,
or $10 with the transcript. I know that might seem like a lot of money, but I'm not really not doing it for the money. I'm trying to do it so I can donate the money to the NVLD project, or so I can do it to pay back on my website subscription fee. So if you're willing to do that, please do. I will give the link for that as well in the description. And I also have podcast swag. I will get the link for that as well. T-shirts and water bottles and tote bags and other pretty cool stuff. So I will give the link for that as well. And without further ado, let's go on to the topic, which is how many doctors, teachers, academic counselors, and tutors are neurodiverse or know someone who is neurodiverse? That's the topic. Imagine how much easier it would be if you could you could walk into a doctor's appointment and have your doctor actually consider that there might be a connection to neurodiversity and chronic pain. Why your prescriptions stop working after a few months, why it's hard for you to lose weight than a neurotypical, harder, why it's harder for you to live on your own than your neurotypical sibling, or why it's harder for you to take care of yourself consistently than a neurotypical who doesn't have chronic pain challenges with visualizing and talking, obviously, the big picture, not being literal and keeping friends. Sorry, I was trying to get some water. Maybe that will help me talk better. You wouldn't have to spend hours doing your own research because they would actually listen to you and care about what you are saying because they're also neurodiverse, or because they know what you mean because they have a friend, child, or know someone who is neurodivergent. Plus, you wouldn't have to cry after trying to explain to them your theory or theories of why you have chronic pain or any other challenges I mentioned earlier. I can't tell you how many times I thought about trying to talk to my neurologist or doctor about being neurodiverse and how it might relate to my challenges with chronic pain or losing weight because of my visual spatial issues or food. Sometimes it helps me when I have a migraine. But the one time I did tell them about my theory of the connection, it went right over their head. And then I was crying after the appointment in my car because of them not caring 1 ounce about the connection. They always say in restaurants, the customer is right. Why don't they at least consider that the patient might be right at a doctor's appointment? Sometimes we know our body is better than they do. We're the ones that have to live with the challenges of being neurodivergent in a world that was built for neurotypicals. They don't. They also don't know what challenges we went through for college, work, and personal life unless we share them. So that was my spiel and kind of venting because I've been through this many times, and I'm not doing this just for the sake of venting. I'm doing this to try to educate you as always and to open your eyes to maybe some things you wouldn't think about without listening to this podcast. Excuse me. And so I hope that this will spur some conversation around this topic. So let's go to the first article, which is titled "How Many Doctors Have NVLD" by Katron McKeevy from March of 2024 this year. And it's from Our World. Quote, "So just how many doctors might have ADHD?" Let's start with a similar question. How many doctors are neurodivergent and why is it hard to find out? All of us fall within the spectrum of neurodiversity, a model which categorizes human cognitive variation in the context of biodiversity instead of a threshold at which normal becomes pathological. ADHD is one condition commonly associated with neurodivergence alongside autism spectrum disorder, ASD, or autism, dyslexia, and some mental illnesses. There's unfortunately no reliable data on the overall prevalence of neurodivergence among medical professionals, so it's difficult to quantify how significant neurodiversity may be in the medical profession. If we use autism as an example, one survey found that 1% of general practitioner respondents identify as autistic. Using data from the general population, the Royal College of Psychiatrics estimate that at least 3,000 doctors practicing in the UK, which is under 1% of all doctors in the UK, may be autistic. In contrast, 3 to 4% of adults are estimated to have ADHD. However, this number is likely to be a vast underestimation, and especially so in medical professions. So, are we accurately identifying ADHD? Several factors are likely to affect the true prevalence of neurodivergence in doctors, the most prominent being identification. Neurodevelopmental conditions affect individuals of all ages, but presenting characteristics varying between different stages in the lifespan. Although most diagnoses occur in childhood, many still slip through the net until adulthood, when coping strategies become insufficient in meeting the demands of adult life. Growing public awareness of neurodevelopmental conditions in adults or a diagnosis in a family member with similar traits are the most common precipitating factors to a late diagnosis of underlying autism or ADHD. Women and ethnic minorities are particularly affected by missed diagnoses. Neurodivergence may also be under-identified in doctors because the signs aren't recognized for what they are. Medical school admissions select candidates who are intelligent, conscientious, high performers, strengths which may be inadvertently mask their difficulties. Some argue that common neurodivergent traits can be perceived as ideal professional qualities and therefore positively selected for ADHD. Symptoms may be missed, seen just as the traits of a good doctor. Close quote. So I think that's a good article because it's questioning whether we are defining, not defining, but if we are underdiagnosing and underestimating ADHD and autism and on how prevalent it is. And I think that's probably, true for some learning differences. I'm not sure if it's true for all of them, but I think that would be a good research project to investigate, to see the correlation of underestimations and diagnoses of learning differences, and the more popular ones, that is, and to see how that correlates with neurodivergence in the medical field. Now, the more popular ones would be good too, but so would the less popular ones like NVLD and dyscalculia and dysgraphia, and I'm not sure dyslexia is more popular or less popular, but yeah, so it would be good to actually do it on all of them and see what the correlation is between them. Excuse me. So the next article is titled, How Schools Can Support Neurodiverse Students. giving kids tools to thrive academically and socially. Written by Julian Gary, clinical expert Cynthia Martin as well. Quote, neurodiversity refers to the idea that a kid's brain functions differently from those of neurotypical children, and it comes in many forms such as learning disorders, ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, ASD, or sensory processing issues. While neurodivergent students may possess unique skills such as exceptional memorization skills or hyper-focus abilities, they often require additional support from teachers, counselors, administrators, and support in staff in the school to excel academically and socially. Three fundamental areas where neurodivergent students tend to need help are behavioral issues, social challenges, and executive functioning. If a child has behavior issues, it's best to validate their feelings and assist them in problem solving those behaviors by calmly talking through alternative ways to express themselves. Implementing supports that benefit both the neurodivergent and neurotypical students can help prevent behavioral problems. These supports include visual aids, relaxation exercises, designated relaxation areas, and movement breaks. Executive functioning skills, which encompass planning, organizing, prioritizing, and initiating tasks, are commonly challenging for neurodivergent students. Teachers can incorporate executive functioning tools like checklists, dedicated binders, reward systems, timers, planners, and calendars to aid these students. Various executive functioning curricula and resources are also available. And lastly, neurodivergent students need social support to be happy and do well in school. They often face difficulties making and maintaining friendships due to the challenges reading social cues and entering play situations, creating an accepting classroom environment, and providing social scaffolding outside the classroom, such as mentoring programs, lunch bunches, and coaching for peer models can help address these challenges. Parents can support their neurodivergent children by providing teachers with an, in quotes, about me letter highlighting their children's strengths, areas of difficulty, stress indicators, and preferred approaches. This letter facilitates collaboration between parents and teachers and opens avenues for ongoing communication to ensure individualized attention for neurodivergent students, close quote. So I think that's actually a really good article, again, because it's giving you specific things to help students in school, and I believe that will help. If there is more help and support for neurodivergence in school, then they can go further with their education and they can go further with becoming doctors in the medical field because they will have more support and they actually will be able to do more challenging careers than they might have if they didn't have that support. I don't know if I would want to be a doctor, but I think I would go back to school if I didn't have as many challenges in school, and if I also didn't, if I had the money for it, of course, but if I had support with the challenges, and if I had, if I knew what education was needed for being a counselor, for an academic counselor, I would go back for that, or I would go for maybe being a life coach for neurodivergence. I think I would like that too. I bring that up because If there was no challenges, if money wasn't an issue, but the challenges were still there, it would be a little bit easier for me to go back to school with the right support and the right accommodations like I had in college. And yes, it would take a while, but I think it'd be worth it. And yeah. So the reason why I brought that up was because I would be furthering my education and I would be able to help neurodivergents by coaching them, and that would also be able to help them get better jobs, and they could get jobs as doctors, or even if they're not a doctor and they're neurodivergent working with other neurodivergents, that's still helping neurodivergents feel more included in their challenges in the work world, personal world, academic world, whatever. So the last article is titled What Every Teacher Should Know About Neurodiverse Learners by Mackling Gander. Sorry if I said that wrong. Quote, start with the student and where they are. Part of this is about accepting where a student is and understanding it. People learn what they are ready to learn. Equally important is to find out what is getting in the way of learning. The best way to do this is to ask a student questions. Obviously, in large lecture classrooms, this can be difficult, but in most classrooms where a student is struggling, there is some expectation that a teacher will intervene. The first step is to give the student the dignity of their situation and then to plan together based on what they have told you. Make instruction and expectations explicit. All students benefit from explicit instruction in any dimension of a course in which one expects them to be able to perform their knowledge and understanding. Making expectations clear for students' performance is essential. Teach in ways that reach the information processing differences in the classroom. This is often called teaching in multiple modalities, and it ties back to earlier forms of working with students with dyslexia, where using visual, kinesthetic, auditory, and tactile modes to help students learn written language was first developed. Provide alternative modes of assessment. The focus should be on whether students have met learning objectives, not on a particular mode of performance. In some cases, tests really matter when content knowledge is essential, as with doctors, airline pilots, EMTs, lawyers, and realtors. Tolerance for error. Research demonstrates that we learn from making mistakes rather than from doing what we already know how to do. In that sense, having tolerance for error is simply a matter of being a good guide in the learning process. Some errors matter less than others. Spelling is a good example of one that does not matter, while an error in a budget projection may matter a great deal. Strategy instruction. This is central to helping anyone with challenges in any arena to perform better. It is about strengths and weaknesses. The key to it is to help students understand what their strengths and challenges are first, and then working to develop strategies to augment strengths and minimize weaknesses. Use technology in helpful and intentional ways. A lot of students benefit from being able to listen to texts or to write their work using speech-to-text software. Having clear information and support for the use of technology is extremely important. At the same time, social media, video games, and so on can be distractions for students. Close quote. Excuse me, I was getting water. So, That article is actually really good because it gives you different ways that teachers can help their students. I remember when I was in college, my GSI, Alex, actually, he asked in the first discussion group that we had that semester, what are the best ways for you to learn in terms of the style of teaching? And I was one of the few that said I liked more auditory, more audio than visual with the PowerPoints. And that struck him because everybody else said that they preferred visual over auditory. There were some that did like auditory, but not as much as I seem to. And audio. And I said that simply because I'm more of an auditory learner, and that was very helpful for him to know because he purposely incorporated more audio into the discussions for me and into his office hours as well when we were doing one-on-one tutoring and talking about the topics for sociology. And that actually really helped me because I did better in that class because he asked about that and because he specifically remembered what I preferred, and he actually implemented it. So I was appreciative of that. I wanted to share that because that relates back to this article, which is asking you to assess your student in the right way so that you can see, okay, how do they learn better? Not just from making mistakes, but also from different tools, whether it's audio, kinesthetic, visual, or a combination of all of those. And or maybe group projects, those are good too. And being able to help your students with that. And that will help them go further into their education, like I said earlier, and be able to excel better and hopefully do whatever they want in the career world and academic world as well. Excuse me. So I hope that this episode was helpful with addressing the topic of neurodivergence in the medical field and how that would actually be more helpful for patients, and to see how we can maybe increase that, and not just neurodivergence, but advocates for neurodivergence and neurotypicals that are more educated about neurodivergence and how that can correlate with how medication might stop working because maybe medications work better for neurotypicals than they do for neurodivergence. I don't know. That probably isn't very well researched. Or maybe it would work better if it was paired with something else. I don't know because I'm not a doctor. But I would appreciate if my doctor would be like, oh, maybe she's right about that, and maybe I should talk to my students in the lab and actually research this because it can help her and my other patients that might be neurodivergent or might have allergies and can't take a prescription that they're allergic to, but could take a different prescription that could help them. That could be an example also there for neurotypicals. So, as always, I will give you the links for the articles, and I hope that you can read those more on your own time. And maybe you can use this episode as a talking point for your friends, and maybe even for academic counselors. I don't know about doctors, but try to do it for teachers and academic counselors and tutors. I think that is probably easier than doctors right now for the neurodiversity piece. But you can try doctors and maybe you'll surprise me. Anyways, if you do get good experiences out of these, please give a comment on this episode. You can comment on Spotify, YouTube, and social media, or you can email me if it's personal. And if you are somebody with NDLD or are neurodivergent and want to be interviewed on this podcast, please let me know, and I will see if we can make that happen. Talk to you next week.
I hope that episode was well worth it for you to listen to and that you were able to take something away from it, even if you don't have a learning challenge, or if you do. I hope it was extra worthwhile for you so that you are able to learn something and maybe journal and jot down some few takeaways so that the next time you experience that challenge yourself, you're able to um, learn how to breathe through it more easily, or maybe not have a meltdown or a tantrum, or be able to take away more learning from it and not make the same mistake twice, and be able to also help somebody else go through that experience if you have a friend who has a learning difference and you are neurotypical. So I hope you will be able to have some experiences in your life now that you have listened to this episode.